Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the phenomenal voice actor, Bev Standing. We talked about how she started as a voice actor, how workshops and coaching helped so much in voiceover, how she found out her voice was being used on a famous app, home studios versus on-site recording studios, how social media can be beneficial to voiceover and can also be damaging. We talked marketing and so much more. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Behind the Audition podcast. All right, my next guest, I am so excited to have on. We have talked through email, we've talked through social media, and you definitely know my next guest. She has, first of all, she's been on many commercials, ads for Kraft, Revision, Tampa Bay Times, Hellman's, Jameson's, Kellogg's, and so much more. But there's one topic we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I'm super excited to have on the show the one, the only, Bev Standings. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. So you just moved. You're getting situated, you said, and
well,
I appreciate you taking time to come on while you're going through all this.
Yeah, it's been an interesting month. This journey started on the 9th of September when I shut my studio down for what I thought was going to be 3 weeks for the first time ever, and
Wow.
I survived. So yay!
That's one thing I don't envy about it. Somebody who's moving. I've done many movings in my life. This is my 5th state I live in, and my wife was in TV, so we moved around quite a bit. Moving is probably worse than painting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they say it's one of the big stressors too. So yeah, my biggest thing was I had to dismantle my studio, which was custom built. So it wasn't a studio bricks; it just comes apart in pieces. It was walls and drywall and insulation.
So you went, full out professional studio there. That's awesome.
Well, I've had this for a while, and then my son-in-law built it. He's a pretty good guy. And when we moved, and then I went to Switzerland, and I came back, and I had a booth built again. So yay to him.
Wow. So we'll go back in time to start things out. You're a daughter of an advertising executive, and so you've been around voiceover for a long time. Talk about life being the daughter of an ad executive. Did that motivate you to be a voice actor?
I had no idea what voice acting was. And that was kind of the fun part of it, was that I did it as a kid. We would sit and watch TV. So he worked for Procter & Gamble, which is now P&G. And he had, wrong side, Kraft, McDonald's, Household Finance. Like those are the ones I really, truly remember. And we would be watching TV together, and a commercial would come, and you couldn't fast forward past anything, so we'd watch the commercial, and then he'd drill me after and say, did you like that commercial? Why did you like it? What was the product? And that's what stuck in my head, I think, the most, was what was the product? And I went, I don't know. Well, it's toilet paper. Well, which brand? I don't know. And he goes, bad commercial.
Wow.
Right. So I learned very early on how important making sure that the name of the client or the product is heard in a way that catches your ear, whether you like it or not. They do it in TV. If the product's label is green, chances are the star of the show is wearing green, the walls are green, the carpet is green, something will be green throughout, so that the green sticks without you realizing it.
Wow. And like today, you hear a lot of the old songs of the 80s and 90s. It used to be jingles back in the day. Excuse me. You'd hear jingles, and those jingles would stick in your head, and it would sell the ad with a voiceover. And you probably learned, from your father, you have to deliver the product. You have to be the voice of the product and sell what they're really looking for, right?
But I didn't realize that's what I was learning.
Wow.
I just thought it was, quality time with my dad.
That's awesome.
Right? And I went down, I watched commercials being filmed, and never, ever expressed an interest in doing that. And he told me after he retired, I said, I would love to be an actress in commercials. And he goes, why didn't you say something?
Oh, because you could have been doing it all the time, probably, right?
I certainly could have been introduced to it at an early age, but I didn't. But in hindsight, once I took the path of VO, I went, oh, that was more important than I realized. So all
So
those
what
little
your
tips.
first step in VO, what was it that you did? And did you get a coach? Did you get an acting class, or was there some workshop you started?
I took a voiceover workshop. I'm fairly open about this. My husband passed away in 2008, and
I'm
what
sorry
would
to
have
hear
been
that.
my wedding anniversary, I didn't want to sit at home on the weekend and have everybody calling and dropping by and going, "Are you okay?" And I just thought that's going to make it worse.
Hmm.
So I looked up for a course online. I looked up cooking. I looked up gardening. Nothing. I don't like any of that stuff enough to really want to take a course, but
Right.
I thought, something's out there going to catch my eye. And the only course I could find was a voiceover workshop. And I just went, okay.
And
So I did. It was VoiceWorks down in Toronto. And it was a 3-day workshop, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And it just allowed me to not live in the moment of pain, not
wow.
live in the moment of sadness. I had to go into a room I was with 5 other people or 4 other people. Well, there were only 5 of us in the group. And I had to be a cat. And you couldn't be a cat, and I'm mic shy at this point in my life. Um, I couldn't be a cat and be a really sad cat. I had to be a cat and, playful and fun. And so I found that while being behind the mic, my real world didn't exist. And I was able to close the door of all those emotions that hurt so deeply. And it was that alone was probably the biggest learning thing for me into the voiceover world without even realizing it again, that I am now able to either open the door to sadness or close it at any given time.
So your first experience in a workshop, was the nerves there, or was it like, being around your father in advertising, you kind of like, I feel a little, I feel comfortable a little bit, or was it like you went in there and you're like, was it a workshop where you're around a bunch of people? Because, back, Zoom's only been around for couple years.
No, it
So
was in person, and like I
yeah.
said, there was our instructor, Mike Kirby, and his wife, and there was another animation instructor, and we were actually in a studio.
Wow. That's
So it was
awesome.
like sitting where, the engineers sit and then taking your turn in the booth. And we were reading together with
Hmm.
animation lines and we're reading corporate lines. And I was a little bit starstruck because there was a girl that got up and started speaking and went, "Oh my God, I know you. You're the news director on such and such."
That is awesome.
So that was kind of like, wow, this is cool. And it just was all part of my healing process. And then a couple of us went off to Second City in Toronto every Sunday afternoon for 3 hours. And I look at it as those 3 hours, my heart didn't hurt.
Wow. So
It was really healing.
yeah, and so we have a lot of voice actors. It seems like we have more and more every day like to come into the industry. Would you still say workshops and coaching is very important to these getting into this business? Because that seems to be the thing that a lot of people miss is learning the craft of how to sell the ads and sell the performances. Do you think a lot of people miss this opportunity before they really get started?
Oh, absolutely. Coaching is huge. Especially even when you're established, we get ourselves into a pattern. We're comfortable, we're getting booked, we're
Hmm.
making good money, we're, doing really well. And then all of a sudden the industry changes and
Hmm.
nobody's there to say, hey, wait a minute, stop sounding so pretty.
Hmm.
Right.
Right.
So, this is what's selling these days. It's good to do coaching with um, coaches that are in the industry that are actually still voicing. It's good to do coaching with casting directors.
Hmm.
It's good to have a variety of coaches because everyone has their own style, but never stop coaching. I truly believe never stop coaching. Being
Great
coached,
advice.
should
Great
say.
advice. So social media, we all are on it. We seem to use our talents on social media, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. And where we're at now in voiceover, what do you think about voiceover on social media? And for those that like to just get on there and show their studios, show their craft, what do you think about voiceover and social media?
Uh, there's a lot of good. It certainly has created a fabulous community
Hmm.
um, where people help each other. It's probably the most giving. I didn't get into this till quite late in life, and I find out of all the things I've done, voiceover, at least at my level, have never met more helpful and kind people. helping you get jobs, helping you improve something wrong with your studio, answering questions you have, offering free advice. There's more free advice now than ever. And in saying that, there's a flip.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that take advice from other people and then market it as their own. And, you have to kind of weed through some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I find it very helpful. If it's used right,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to find clients.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a coach, it's a great way to get students and get referrals. It can also be pretty damaging. I'm very, very careful not to comment on political or religious
Mm-hmm.
or other controversial topics of the day,
Right.
because they're my personal opinions. And when I'm behind the mic speaking your words,
Right.
it's your opinion.
Right.
So I don't want to be associated with that.
Right. Right.
I want to be able to do a Trump spot and not have them go, but why did you say something bad about Trump? Or do a Biden spot and say, why did you say that? We can't hire you.
Right.
Like,
And
it just doesn't do want to say,
and you do want to say, like, at the end of the copy, it does say these. This is expressed on their opinions, not mine. This is my job. It's like playing
and if
a
you
bad
don't
guy in a
know
movie.
that,
Right. It's
right?
like playing a bad guy in a movie. I'm really not a bad guy. I'm playing a bad guy. I'm acting, and you believe me so bad or so much that you actually think I support this person or that person, because I get it. I do. I just did some political ads, and I'm like you. I look over the script and copy, and I approve it because I don't. I mean, politics, religion, relationships, and income is something I don't talk about with anybody. I just feel it could go bad anyway. You know what I mean? And I think it's personal. I think everybody is right to their own beliefs. But like you're saying, political ads, I find myself, I'll look at it and I'll say, I appreciate the offer, but at the end of the day, I think this may come off like what you're saying, bad, and my name might not go well with that. So, and it's crazy how that's one voiceover that is hard to choose from nowadays. But speaking of social media, we all know about the app that somehow your voice got on, and we had a lot of support in the voiceover community for you. And I couldn't imagine getting on a social media platform and hearing so much support. But the voiceover industry has so much support for one another, and what's right for our brands, our voice, our pocketbooks. How did that make you feel when this all came out?
It was interesting, to say the least. At the very first time somebody sent me a video, because I had not heard myself.
Mm-hmm.
And Bridget Reel, she was living, I think, in Portugal at the time. And I woke up on the 30th of November or whatever, and she said, "This is you, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And she knows me. And I went, "Yeah, hey, that's cool." And she goes, "No, and this is you, right?" And I went, "What?" And within 24 hours, my kids were sending me stuff. I didn't even know what TikTok was. I really did not know what the app was all about. I didn't have it. And so I downloaded it to figure out how to use the text-to-speech app. But the minute I heard my voice, I went, I know exactly where these files came from. I know the job I did, I know when I did it, and I know who I did it for, and I know why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So it took probably all of December, January, February, March, 4 months before it ended up in the system officially. I talked to a tiny little handful, like less than a handful of people about this, about their thoughts, about should I just be excited that I'm now the voice of this app?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I be concerned that I'm now the voice of this app?
Mm-hmm.
And it came down to my personal, this is wrong. This is a business decision. This is not a personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use my voice without my permission. It's not what I was hired for. And it wasn't like I was hired to do a text-to-speech job for somebody else.
Right.
I was hired to do a translation app.
Wow.
So it wasn't even the same thing, which was a big factor for me. It wasn't like, oh, I guess I got that. They said text-to-speech and I said yes. I never got that in my inbox. So that was my concern. And the fact that luckily they had an office in New York City, I was able to pursue it. And they took my voice down because they agreed that my complaint was valid.
Wow, that's always good to hear, because the next thing I want to talk about in perpetuity. If people need to understand how important it is, right? When you get somebody sends you a project, you need to seriously look over usage, perpetuity, and what this is being used for, because at the end of the day, it can happen to anybody. I've received many AI auditions, and I just like, there's no way, because there's the fine print. This says basically they could use this for any electronic device that they sell, like refrigerators talk to us, computers, cars, and there's a lot of products coming out that use voice actors, and I think, how important is that for those getting into this industry? Not just hire me, hire me, hire me, I'll do whatever, because at the end of the day, you are really getting ripped off.
Yeah, you are. You're getting ripped off in the fact that if you were hired for a car commercial, you'd get paid for that commercial from point A to point B. If you're hired to be the voice of a car,
Hmm.
then you can't be the voice of another car.
Right.
And if you're hired to be a refrigerator, you can't be the voice of another brand of refrigerator.
Hmm.
Now, people will say to you, what are the odds that you're going to get hired for another car? Like, that's a pretty unique job.
Hmm.
But if you're the voice of a car, for example, I bet you can't do any car commercials either.
Wow. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't be the voice of Mercedes and then go out and sell Kias.
Right.
Not if your voice is the same. Now, if you can mask your voice perfectly,
Right.
they might not mind. But what if you go to a higher end agent, they need to know every single location you have a car commercial running
Right.
before they send you an audition for a car commercial.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
if you turn around and say, well, I'm the voice of Mercedes cars, I can't do any, I have a restriction on, I'm the on hold voice of a bank. I can't do any other bank.
Right. Right. So you're stuck to one brand, but make sure you're getting paid well for that brand, because there's opportunities you're going to miss out on because you're doing one type of brand. Yeah.
But the kicker to that is, if you have no control over where and how your voice is being used, how
Right.
do you honor that agreement?
Right.
How do you honor that contract? I'm of the mindset that I'd like a lawyer to come up with the right answer. We
Hmm.
need to have lines in our contracts, every single contract, that this does not include AI where I have not given permission.
Right.
Like, I don't know how to say that without putting a client into frenzy.
Right.
But if you have an AI voice out there, and there are companies where AI voices are being produced left, right, and center, and people are going, hey, I'm making $7,000 and I've got an AI voice,
Right.
and you have no say into where it's being used, how do you honor any non-compete?
Absolutely. It was kind of like, when I when I first had my first NDA sent to me, and you open that thing, and I needed the NDA for dummies, because the verbiage was so crazy, and I'm like, and I called my coach. I said, "This is just for an audition. I'm doing an NDA for an audition. This is crazy to me, right?" And so you do it, but then you're so scared. What did I sign? Did I sign an NDA for an audition, or did I sign an NDA for, you can use my audition for selling? Because people there, it's a fact. There's people who do auditions, and they use those auditions to go sell that, and then they go hire a better voiceover for the product. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So, and a lot of people don't understand that. There are platforms out there that they may pay you $10 for that, but they're only using your voice many times to get a better product, and it's crazy. So, speaking of pay to play, what do you think of pay to play? There, a lot of them are changing again. Some are going cheaper. Some are staying good for voice actors. The voice with the three numbers. I still keep that one. I quit doing all the pay to plays. I just don't like paying for auditions. I think, getting out there and making calls and selling myself, to production companies is a lot better. But what do you think about the ones out there that are out there now today?
I am on four paid to plays, one of which I'm on as a free profile, only to be found, and I will never put an audition through their site. Um, and it's one of the ones you mentioned. And I was woohoo to Bev. I
Yeah.
was one of the first people to leave when the terms of service of this certain site said we can reproduce, use your audition, and we
Mhm.
own your audio for
Right.
whatever we want. No remuneration for you. I went, okay, I'm gone.
Right.
And I was killing it on that site. I was working full time and doing really well to the point where I went, hey, if I spent more time, I could probably equal my daytime salary on this. But when that happened, I left and I gave up that income, and the clients couldn't follow me. Some of them did, but
Right.
most of them couldn't because you couldn't,
Give you information. Yeah.
communicate with them. So I went to the other one with the numbers,
Yeah.
and I'm still on there.
Right.
I'm blessed to say I have a real problem is that I don't have a lot of time to audition on that site as much as I used to, but
Mhm.
I stay there because I do get direct hits.
Right.
I have talked to production people and clients that they say, you know what, we just want to go through the site,
Right.
but we'll just hire you directly from there. It's like,
Right.
whatever. So I continue to pay for that. I'm on that one in Europe. And again, I don't audition for much, but I love the transparency and the ethics behind it.
Mhm.
And I'm on one other that a lot of people don't like, and I book like crazy. And I have repeat clients, and I've done directed sessions, yet you're not allowed to communicate.
Right.
You can.
Mhm.
There's a way to do it, and I book a lot of work, and it's a lot of repeat work. And that one site that everyone hates, I actually did a national, and they came back and said, we want to renew you through the site, and paid me again. So
Wow.
not all, and they've been nothing but helpful through their support to me.
Right.
And that's why I stay there, because the negative things I've heard have not directly affected me.
Right.
And it's a business decision.
Right. And
And
I
it's $200 a year.
that's not bad. And you just said a while ago, I talked to two production houses last week, excuse me, and they said, you know, we prefer to go through this site. And you don't have to pay for the being on the site, just have a profile. But we like favoriting all our voice talent so that when we go, we just send it to everyone. So we don't have to shuffle through everybody's website. So I think that's important for voice actors to know, have some profiles on some of these sites just so that production houses can get in touch with you. What would you say your marketing strategy is? Do you like to just reach out, or do you have a good book of business that you can rely on month to month, or do you still like to get out there and cold call production houses or video production just to keep in touch with the new companies coming out?
I have done one cold call in all my years.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good to know. That's very cool here.
I am terrified of rejection,
Mm-hmm.
so I'd rather not be confronted with it.
Yeah.
It's awful. I went to it, and it was in person too. I went to my car dealer where I had purchased a car, and I talked to the manager, the head of the owner or whatever he was, and I said, "Oh, by the way, you do advertising and stuff, and I'm a voice talent." And he goes, "Oh, we use a company in Florida, but thanks anyway." And I went, "Okay," ran away. But I have what I call a shiny thing marketing plan. And that's, I'll see a video that I really like, and I'll go to see who made it, and I'll reach out through LinkedIn. I will comment on it and walk away and never think about it again.
Wow.
I will hear about something in a post and go, "Oh, I've never heard of them before. I should at least research them." And then I'll star it to go back on another time.
Right.
I don't have a marketing plan. And again, partly is because I was doing so well while working full time. I didn't have a whole lot of time to market. I
Mm-hmm.
was busy on online casting sites and
Right.
booking
Right.
and getting coached and taking courses
Right.
and going to conferences. And so my marketing plan, I would love to say that I I spend an hour a day. I don't spend an hour a week, but I might independently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally I'm in the middle of something and I stop and I go off and do this thing and come back.
Well, you have a good strategy. I mean, a lot of people do use LinkedIn as a marketing tool. I use it. Excuse me. I reach out to a lot of clients on LinkedIn actually, and I've built a good book of business with LinkedIn, because you can find out the type of voiceovers that are on there, but just find production houses, and you get to do the employees, because I think a lot of people go on there, they'll hit connect. And I think there's like a certain number that those people aren't even on LinkedIn anymore. And you can see it where it says they have not been active. Don't connect with somebody that says that. You know what I mean? So I think you do have a good way of marketing, and it's very, very nice to hear that, a lot of people don't do the cold calling, they're because, because of lack of, not lack of fear, but being fearful of it. But we're gonna have some fun now. We're gonna do the audition challenge. It's something I do on the show. I'm going to send something fun in the script, and I saw that you do Hellman's commercials, and I wrote a piece of copy in your chat box, and
Okay.
it's a fun commercial. I do off the wall copy, and I think you'll respect this one. So whenever you want to look this over and take a try, have some fun with it.
Mayonnaise on my sandwiches is essential, but there is only one mayonnaise I trust, and it's made by Liverwurst. Liverwurst mayo gives you that salty beef flavor to add to your fresh tuna sandwich. Liverwurst mayo. There's nothing like it. I promise.
Isn't that great? Isn't
That's
that great?
great. Where do you write?
I just, when I started back in '01, I always like saying '01, but I used to write copy for radio stations, and I would say, and I love, like, kind of like, what your father did. I love hearing a commercial and hearing the copy, and sometimes, like, who wrote that? You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
I said, well, on this show, I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to write the copy each week, make it nostalgic with old school commercials, with the new school commercials. Cause nowadays it's not really a lot of voiceover on national ads. You hear a lot, mostly music, and there's dancing, and they're, doing all the new trends. But that's something, mayo is an acquired taste for me sometimes.
Well, and that's just a perfect example of you're making it sound like you truly believe it, right?
Yeah, I would have bought it. You sold it well. So you might get a call from Hellman saying, "Hey, Bev, I love the liverwurst. We just made it." So, and if
There
they
you
did,
go.
I
Well,
went in on
I'll
it.
give you a percentage. I'll give you a cut.
Well, before I let you go, I do have my cliche question. For those getting into this industry, I think it's very important for people to hear from the guests like yourself that come on my show, words of wisdom. What are some words of wisdom that you give to those getting into this industry to look out for, to focus on, and just to make yourself better?
I actually have a few words of wisdom. I'll be brief. One, do your homework. It's hard work. It's a job. Um, you have to be willing to commit, whether it's an hour a day, 5 hours on Saturday, whatever it is, be consistent. Um, do your homework, do your research, listen and read before you ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Join the Facebook world. There's lots of great groups. Inquire if you go to do coaching to people they've coached with, to see if that might work for you. Look at all aspects and be realistic. If you're going to be able to afford, and I'll say a decent mic, not a USB mic, or your phone, and that you're willing to learn the software that's free. There's free software that people use today that are established talent. So it's a matter of doing your homework and asking questions and getting connected. I'll do a little plug. I have a Facebook page, hashtag water cooler dash Facebook or voiceover chat. And I've got over 1,000 members in there. And it's basically like, I have a question and I don't want a thread.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to open a Zoom room now or in 2 hours. If you can join, here's my question.
Wow.
And people can just join in and give their insights. And there's some really helpful people, from agents to casting directors to engineers to production people, mostly talent. But it's been and it's around the world. I open rooms in the morning and I sit and talk with a friend of mine now in Japan. It's pretty cool, and it's great to get insights. But it's a safe space to ask questions, especially if you're new, because nobody judges.
Wow, that's great advice. And you just went to VO Atlanta, and you like to get out in the community and talk to other voice actors. Get involved in workshops. Would you recommend going to things like that for those getting into the industry?
I'm a I'm a voiceover junkie. I really am. I've learned so much, met so many people, and so many of the nicest people. Again, those hallway chats with the presenters, they're not gods. They're regular people, and they really are there to help and share information. I'm also a territory controller in Canada for Gravy for the Brain,
Nice.
which has so much to offer for very little money and no long-term contracts. So I have to do a plug for them. Because I love working with them. I think that they're a really good organization, and they're worldwide. if you can't afford a lot of money, find a conference close.
Okay. Yeah.
Get a 1 day. The onlines are great, but the in-person stuff, now that we're able to do that, hugely beneficial. At least it has been to me.
Very nice. Very nice. And so where can we find you on the World Wide Web, and what social media are you on?
Bev Standing, bevstanding.com, at Bev Standing, Twitter, Bev Standing, LinkedIn. I don't use Instagram a lot. And oddly enough, I am on TikTok.
Well,
And I'd love you to follow me on TikTok. I'm working on it. I've
yeah. More
got
and more
over
voice actors
1,000
get on there.
followers, and I don't know what to do with it yet. So
Well, you have been such a pleasure to talk to, and I'm so grateful for you to take time to come on the show. I will always keep in touch with you on social media, and I will definitely always give you shout outs because you've done so much for the VO community. Bev Standings, thank you so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
thank you, Curt. And I have to do this. It's been a pleasure. It was so much fun.
Yes, that was awesome.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.